Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into it today because we are tackling one of the absolute highest stakes, most confusing, and frankly ridiculously expensive parts of higher education, figuring out how to actually pay for a PhD. Look, if you have ever stared at a grad school application, looked at that total estimated cost of attendance, and thought, how on earth do people afford 5 to 7 years of intense research without ruining their lives with debt? Well, you are exactly in the right place. Today, we're opening up the Insider's Playbook to fully funded PhD programs. $4,850. Now, if you've been Googling around for PhD admissions advice, trying to make sense of this completely opaque process, you've probably stumbled across boutique consultants and agencies quoting you exactly this number. Right? They promise to hold your hand, they practically guarantee admission to a top-tier program, and they swear they'll help you find funding, all for this massive, non-refundable upfront fee. It is honestly just a predatory hurdle and an already stressful process. So if you're sitting there right now with a quote like this open in another tab, I want you to literally close it. We're going to bypass that fee entirely. Because our goal for this explainer is a whole lot simpler. $0. That's it. That is exactly what you need to spend to find the right information. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the exact step-by-step, entirely free framework you can use to secure a fully funded PhD. And just to be super clear, when I say fully funded, I mean your tuition bill is zero, your health insurance is covered, and you are getting paid a regular living stipend every single month just to do your research. You absolutely do not need an expensive middleman for this. You just need the right roadmap. All right, first things first, we've got to unlearn the worst, most generic advice out there. If you ask a well-meaning relative or a random internet forum how to find a program, they're usually going to tell you, hey, just Google PhD in your subject. But here's why that is a massive trap. If you just Google it, you're going to end up staring at a soul-crushing spreadsheet of hundreds of generic university web pages with absolutely zero guaranteed funding attached to them. A university having a general PhD page is not the same thing as a specific professor having active, usable grant money right now to fund you. So we're replacing that infinite scroll with a targeted insider search. To do that, we need a proven system. We're going to use what I call the search framework. This is our roadmap, and following this acronym is literally going to save you months of wasted time and thousands of dollars in application fees for dead-end programs. We're going to search strategically, evaluate the funding, analyze fit, reach out, customize, and finally handle follow-ups. Having this structure, it's the difference between blindly throwing applications at a wall and actually securing a job as a funded researcher. So let's break these down one by one. Starting with our first letter, S. Search strategically means ditching the standard search engines completely. Instead, you've got to use specialized, free databases that actually let you filter results by funding status. Whether you're dreaming of a cozy UK college town or a high-tech lab in Germany, these are your starting lines. Findaphd.com is fantastic for funded studentships in the UK and beyond. Your Access is the official EU portal for fully funded research positions. ProFellow is great for funded fellowships. And if you're looking at Germany, which, by the way, practically treats PhDs as paid full-time jobs, phdgermany.de and the DAD scholarship database are absolute gold mines. But okay, here is the ultimate insider secret that almost nobody thinks to use. Public government databases. You can use platforms like the National Science Foundation's Award Search or the NIH Reporter in the US to search for your highly specific research keywords. Why is this such a game changer? Because it shows you exactly which professors were just awarded massive, multi-million-dollar government grants. If a professor just won a 5-year grant in your niche last month, they literally have the cash in hand to hire and fund a new PhD student right now. You aren't guessing if they have money, you know for an absolute fact that they do. Which brings us to E, evaluate the funding. This is the exact trap so many eager applicants fall into. When you're looking at funding offers or department websites, you're going to see the phrase, may be eligible for funding. And people get incredibly excited. Do not fall for this. May be eligible is just academic speak for funding that is highly competitive, severely limited, or probably going to evaporate after your first year, leaving you scrambling to pay for tuition. What you actually want is explicit, legally binding language like guaranteed funding for 5 years. If you can't find that exact guarantee in writing, that is the very first question you have to ask before committing. And speaking of guarantees, you really need to evaluate the timeline realistically. Let's say you get an offer guaranteeing you 4 years of solid funding. Sounds amazing on paper, right? But what if the average time it actually takes to finish a dissertation in that specific lab is 6 years? That hidden 2-year gap between your funding running out and your actual graduation date is exactly where students go into unexpected, massive debt. The panic of year 5 is a very real thing, so you must urge the program to clarify the expected time to degree in writing and make absolutely sure your funding covers that entire realistic duration. The last part of evaluating funding is a quick reality check on the raw stipend number, because honestly, a stipend number means absolutely nothing in a vacuum. Think about it, a $38,000 stipend in a major coastal city versus a $28,000 stipend in a low-cost college town in the Midwest. After you factor in crazy rent prices and daily living expenses, that larger number might actually leave you struggling to buy groceries. Meanwhile, the smaller stipend might offer a way more comfortable standard of living. Always, always run a quick cost of living comparison for that specific city before you judge the true value of an offer. You need financial stability to do good research. All right, let's move on to A, analyze fit. Before you ever draft a single email to a professor, you need to put on your detective hat and check 3 things. First, the grant end date. If that government grant you found expires in 8 months, that professor might not have the money to fund you next year. Second, read their 3 most recent papers. A professor's focus shifts all the time. Make sure their work from this year matches your interests, not just some famous paper they wrote 10 years ago. And third, check their lab website thoroughly. A surprising number of professors put a huge, bold notice on their homepage saying, "Not currently accepting students." Read it, believe it, and save yourself the time. Once you've done the digging and analyzed the fit, it's time for R. Reach out. You're going to send a cold email, and I know that's intimidating, but the psychology of your subject line will make or break you here. Use this exact phrasing: prospective PhD student, question about funded openings, fall, and then plug in the year. This works beautifully. It is incredibly low pressure, super professional, and highly specific. Including the word question is the secret sauce. It signals to a busy professor scanning their chaotic inbox that there is a specific, actionable item inside to reply to, not just some generic form letter they can immediately delete. And inside that actual email, keep it to 3 incredibly brief steps. I'm talking under 150 words total. Step 1, tell them who you are and why you're writing, referencing their recent work. Step 2, ask your specific funding question. Don't just say, "I'd love to work with you." Ask if they are accepting funded students for your term under their current grant. Step 3, just a simple low-pressure sign-off and attach your CV. That's the whole shebang. No long life stories, no elaborate flattery, and please, absolutely no unrequested 10-page research proposals. Professors barely have time to read emails from their colleagues, let alone a stranger's unprompted dissertation draft. Now remember, timing is everything. It matters just as much as what you write. Do not send your carefully crafted emails in August, right before the chaotic syllabus panic start of the semester. And definitely not in December when they are drowning in grading finals or traveling for the holidays. Your email will just get buried. Instead, aim for the quiet inbox windows, early September once classes actually settle down, mid-January or early spring. Striking during these high response windows drastically increases the statistical odds that your email actually gets opened and read. Which brings us to the C in our framework, customize. Look, the absolute fastest way to get ignored and sent straight to the trash folder is sending a generic copy-paste mass email. If your email starts with "Dear esteemed professor," and you could send it to 15 different faculty members without changing a single word, you need to scrap it and rewrite it. The secret is just adding one highly specific sentence about a recent paper, a specific finding, or a unique method from their lab. That one single, customized sentence proves that you actually did the reading and you're genuinely interested in them, not just spamming the department. And our final letter is H, handle follow-ups. The waiting game can cause a ton of anxiety, so here is the professional timeline to follow so you look persistent, not desperate. Day 1, you send your customized email. Then you wait a full 7 days. Just be patient, let them get through their backlog. On day 8, you get to send exactly 1 follow-up email, just a polite 2-sentence nudge attached to the original thread. Now, if 9 or more days pass after that follow-up and it's still crickets, you gotta let it go and move on. It usually just means they don't have funding or it's a mismatch. Do not keep emailing them. Handling the process also means dealing with waitlists and, hopefully, multiple offers. If a program waitlists you specifically for funding, it is perfectly okay and professional to politely ask them for a target date by which those decisions will be finalized. You have a right to plan your life. And if you are in the amazing position of having multiple accepted, funded offers, it is totally normal to negotiate. You have leverage here. You can respectfully let a program know you have a competing offer and ask if there's any flexibility in their funding package or moving allowance. The worst they can say is no, and hey, you still have the offer. Real quick, before we wrap this up, I want to pause and present some crucial safety warnings, especially for international students navigating this whole global process. Unfortunately, there are scams out there that prey on academic dreams. Legitimate universities will never demand a massive financial deposit before providing an official, formal offer letter through their actual admissions portal. Legitimate consultants cannot guarantee visa approvals. Literally, no one can guarantee that for you. And real funding offers only ever come on official university letterhead from a verified university email domain, never as generic PDFs sent from some third-party agency's Gmail account. Just protect yourselves and always verify directly with the official university. So there you have it, the complete search framework. Search strategically, evaluate funding, analyze fit, reach out, customize, and handle follow-ups. It's the exact zero-consultant method you can use to secure a fully funded PhD and avoid years of completely unnecessary debt. Now, I want to leave you with a final thought to reflect on as you map out your own application journey. Looking at this entire process we just walked through, which letter of the search framework are you stuck on right now? Identify that specific bottleneck, apply these strategies, and take control of your academic future. Thanks so much for exploring this with me on The Explainer.